Okay, so I think we're on now, live. Okay, so welcome everyone. This is Eunice Sultan, proud partner of Trading Notice. So today what I'm going to show you is basically my scalping method. And a lot of people have been asking about my scalping. I've gotten a few requests to do online coaching. And sorry, just my phone keeps going off. I've gotten a few requests to do online coaching. And basically, for those who don't know what scalping is, scalping is basically trading on a very small time frame. Now, usually with scalps, you're going to be going for less pips just because the market's moving very fast and you're not really trying to follow any major movement. What you're trying to do is just do a quick entry, get a few pips, and then leave, close the trade. So before we actually get into the technical analysis, the most important thing to do with scalping is your broker and your spreads. So because you're going for such few pips, your spread is going to be a huge effect in your scalping. So for those of you that are with ECN brokers, you're going to have an easier time to scalp. Me personally, I'm with an ECN broker, so I would recommend scalping. If you're on a standard account, I would not recommend scalping just because your spread is just too high, and by the time your trade actually gets past the spread and you actually start to break even, the time frame could be up and the trade could reverse on you. So very first thing that you have to make sure when you're scalping is that you have a good broker with very low spreads. Ruben, can you hear me okay? Ruben left. If you guys can hear me okay, just drop it in the chat, please. Okay, great. Okay. So yeah, as I was saying, you need a good broker. Broker is the most important thing when it comes to scalping. The second most important thing is which pairs you scalp. As you may or may not know, major pairs are going to have a smaller spread. So the best pairs to scalp will be major pairs. If you look to my left of the screen over here, the best pairs to scalp would be USD CAD, USD JPY, Euro USD, GBP USD, and AUD USD, and possibly USD Swiss franc and the Euro pound. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, if the spread is usually above 15 micro pips, I personally wouldn't take a scalp. Why? Because it's going to be too hard to get into to break even. So out of all brokers, usually the pair with the smallest spread is going to be the Euro USD, and the second lowest is going to be the USD Japanese yen. So those are probably going to be your go-to pairs. Another rule about scalping is that I usually personally just start scalping on Tuesday and sometimes Sunday. I usually almost never trade on Mondays just because Mondays I've never really liked trading on Mondays because I feel like there's a lot of fake outs and it's very hard to see where the trend is going. Monday is usually known as the market maker day just because the market makers usually start building up liquidity for more drops or rises depending on what they're trying to do. So yeah, that's another rule that I like to follow. Another rule is you don't want to trade between 5 p.m. and 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The reason is because these are known as the dead hours of the market. During these 2 hours, usually the spreads are going to go much higher, so it's going to be a lot harder to scalp. And also, there's just going to be no volume. You're not going to get a lot of movement. Like if we go on this chart, it should be around the beginning of the market. So we're going to be looking for right when the market opens, so around 0, 0. So around this kit and around this scenario here, see how there's a lot of dojis, not a lot of movement. Usually around between 5 and 7 Eastern Standard Time. I don't take any trades during that time. Again, the spreads are just too high. The spreads are just excuse me. The spreads are just too high, and it's just too hard to squeeze out pips. Next thing I want to talk about is the time frames that I like to scalp personally. My favorite time frame these days is usually the M5. I started scalping a few months ago on the M1, and the reason why is because I remember there was a Japanese news, and I noticed that after the news, after maybe about 10, 15, 20 minutes on the M1, because it was moving so volatile, it was pretty easy to scalp. It was moving so rapidly. So I decided to try scalping. I first started with penny lots and just smaller lots. And I remember on my first week of scalping, I ended up counting up 190 scalps. Out of those 190 scalps, 172 were profitable, so a little over 90%. And that's when I started to branch out to the bigger time frames, the M5 and the M15, just to gain more experience. If you're in Uncle Ted's webinar group, then you'll know that I created a document called the Sultan Scalping document, which basically show my plan. I've gotten multiple people message me all the time with their results from my plan. I don't even know who they are, and they're just like, "Thank you for contributing that document." So yeah, that's usually. But nowadays I usually just scalp the M5. I don't usually trade the news anymore, just because I find with the M1 you're gonna go through just too much drawdown. Usually I'll scalp the M5 and the M15. Again, these are my favorite pairs on the left. These first 7. Usually I'll just scalp USD CAD, the USD Yen, the Euro USD, GBP USD, and AUD USD. So those 5. I also like to scalp gold. I'll talk about gold a little later. Let me just check questions. Okay. So basically now we're going to talk about how I scalp, the technical analysis. So I only use 2 tools during scalping. And that's candlesticks and the stochastic oscillator. This is probably my favorite indicator to use. And candlesticks. The reason why I don't do support and resistance lines or trend lines is because the time frame that you're looking at is just too small to build out really major support or resistance lines. If you wanted to, you go on the H1 or the H4 and try and build out support and resistance lines. So right around here, we have resistance. Resistance, and we have a support / resistance right around here. For those who don't know, I pretty much never trade on my computer. I like to trade on a phone or a tablet. The reason why is because I just like the touchscreen. I don't really like the keyboard and the mouse. So that's why you don't really see any lines drawn up. I just quickly made this on the fly. But you can draw your support and resistance on a larger time frame and then go back to your smaller time frames before you scalp. Personally, I don't really do that much. I usually just look at, again, the candlesticks and the stochastic oscillator. So in terms of the stochastic oscillator, you can see I actually have 4 levels instead of 2. I have the 80, the 70, the 30, and the 20. And the reason why I have these levels is simply for the fact that I'm looking for the market to be either oversold or overbought before I decide to take a trade. Now, if you can usually run a back testing on this if you want, but usually the reason why I have the 80 and the 70 and the 20 and the 30 is as my confirms. So basically, let me pull up to a trade that I excuse me, pretty sick. This is a trade that I did this morning. I think it was right around here, I believe. Let's use the cursor. Oh, it was this one. So I took this cell, and basically what I use a stochastic oscillator for is if you look at it, whenever the stochastic oscillator crosses the 80, that means that the market is oversold. So what you're going to look to do is to buy. Now, when would you take the buy? The reason why I use the 70 line is because I'm looking for the stochastic oscillator to cross the 80 line, and then what I'm looking for it to do is to dip back down towards the 70. The 70 and the 30 are your confirms to initiate the trade. And the reason why is because we now have a confirm of a reversal. And a lot of people look down on the indicators in general, but the reason is when you're on smaller time frames, the indicators are going to be less laggy just because the market's moving faster. So, yes, for example, what I would look to do is, let's say it was past the 80 and it was near the 70. I was getting close to the 70, but the candle hadn't closed, right? So the candle hasn't closed, so I don't take the trade yet. I wait for the next candle to open. So if you look here, when it actually dipped past the 70, right, I would have entered at the top of this candle. I take the trade at the opening of the new candle once it's crossed the 70 or once it's crossed the 20. So I basically took the trade here, 1.09457, and I wrote it down about 50 pips, 50 micro pips. So in terms of your take profit and your stop loss, that's completely up to you, as well as your risk management. Usually, if I was to scalp the M1, I'm usually going to go for about a 10 to 15 pip stop loss. I mean, take profit. If I'm scalping the M5, I'm going to go for 25 to 50 micro pips. And if I'm scalping the M15, I'm going to go for about 50 to maybe 100 micro pips. So how do you know when to close scalp? So your stop loss should be at least usually 1-to-1 ratio. So if I'm going for 50 pips on this trade, my stop loss is going to be 50 pips. Sometimes I'll do a slightly negative, usually 1.5 to 1 risk to reward ratio. So if I was going for 50 pips, I have a 75 pip stop loss. The reason why is because you're on smaller time frames. You need to let the market breathe. Now, I want to talk about candlesticks now. So the reason I took this trade was first confirm was across the 80. Now, usually you probably want to look for it to cross the 80 a little bit to a higher degree, maybe around here, but it crossed my 80. Now, what I did is that I waited for it to dip down. So during these candles, I wouldn't take the trade. Sorry, guys. Yeah, I wouldn't take the trade. I'd wait. Now, I waited until this candle closed because once this candle closed, we were past the 70 or just touching the 70. That's when I would initiate the trade. So first thing, this bearish candle opened, I took the trade. Another confirm we had was this large wick. You can see that wick. What that means is that the bulls or the buyers tried to drive up the market, but what happened was that the sellers were able to overpower them and drive the market back down. When you see a large wick like this, usually means that the market is going to start moving the opposite direction. So now I have 3 confirms. I have the 80 being crossed, which tells me that the market's oversold. I have the 70 being touched or crossed, which is telling me that a reversal is likely to happen. And I have a good candlestick formation with this large wick. Now, on this particular trade, I just took 50 pips, 50 micro pips. So 407, 457, 407. So it closed within the first 5 minutes. Another trade. See, even though you can see this large bull rally, I wouldn't have taken this trade because it didn't cross my 80. I'm not exactly certain that the market was oversold at this point, so I didn't take the trade. You could if you wanted to. If you're basing it off of candles, you can see a lot of dojis forming, wicks forming. Good indication that the market might reverse. Let's go on USD JAP because I took another scalp here. Let me just find it. I remember the candlestick formation that was there. Yeah, I think it was right here. So I took this trade right around here at 365. I wrote it down. I take profit 313. I only took 25 pips on this trade just because that's what I was wanting to go for. As you can see, the candles are a lot smaller, which tells me that the market isn't really moving as fast as I wanted to. So I'd probably just go for 25 pips instead of my 50 pips. Let's move on to the M15. So M15, again, you can see market crosses the 80, starts to dip back to the 70. We have pretty good candles with the dojis, and we get our drop down. Look for another one right around here. Another drop. Another here. I think this is almost close to the market closing, but we got a little bit of a rise. We got a little bit of a drop with that wick. So basically, you can see what I'm doing. Now, I'm not sure if I can add gold. I'm not sure I can add gold to the pairs that I trade on my computer. I always just trade on my phone. Usually, this is actually one of my first times on the computer. But yeah, for gold, usually it's basically the same plan, but usually with gold, because if you know, gold moves a lot faster. So on the M15, I'll usually go for 100 micro pips, take profit, 100 micro pips stop loss. I also like to scalp gold on the M30, just because I find that on the M30, the stochastics are obeyed the best just for gold. I feel like when you use smaller time frames for gold, it's just moving too fast. You can't really see what you're doing. You're not gonna be able to form a good take profit and stop loss. Now, for example, if you didn't want to just do a 50 pip stop loss, let's say I'd taken this sell right around here, right? So I'm gonna fall. You could just follow the stochastic. So usually, if I'm in the middle of a trade, let's say I'm going for 50 pips, and I'm at 30 pips profit, and I see the stochastic, it's getting towards the 70 or the 20, I might think about closing the trade early. Why? Because usually when it gets to the oversold market, you might get a reversal. So you could do that as well. Another thing that you could do is that you could have two positions. Maybe one goes for 25 pips and the other goes for 50 pips. Another thing that you could do is maybe you open a position that goes for 50 pips. Let's say at 30 or 35, 40 micro pips, you move your take profit to positive 5 pips. Therefore, it's a risk-free trade. You would have seen that if you had done that with this trade, you wouldn't have hit your stop loss once you modified it because we got a good drop down. So yeah, that's in terms of my technical analysis. So just to review, what we're going to want when we're scalping is a good broker with small spreads, usually less than 10 or 15 micro pip spread. The second thing we're going to want to do is make sure that we're trading the major pairs, which have the smallest spread. The third thing you want to do is probably not scalp on Monday and not scalp when the market opens. You also probably want to scalp a pair that's in session. So during the American session, which is from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you might only trade the USD CAD, USD JAB, Euro USD, GBP, anything with USD. But during the Asian session, which is from 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 3 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, you might only trade the Australian US dollar and the GBP the USD yen, just to get a pair that's in session because the market's going to move faster. Again, with the conference, what you're going to want to look for is overbought or oversold on the stochastic, and it either dips up to the 30 or down to the 70 once the new candle opens. If it's touching that, then you can possibly take the trade. You also want to look at your candlesticks. Large wicks or dojis going to give a good sign of reversal. Another thing that you want to look for is maybe you don't want to scalp during the news. Usually I won't scalp during the news anymore. I'm not really into that. I'll usually, if there's news coming in, I don't know, maybe the next 15, 30 minutes for that major pair, I might not take the trade. I might look at a different pair. So yeah, I think that's it for now. If there's any questions, just type them in right now. I'll answer them. And this will be recorded if you want to rewatch it. if you want to take notes, or if you want to, for anyone who missed out, you could also message me personally. My name is Eunice Sultan. You can message me on the Telegram chat, message me on the Facebook chat. And yeah, any questions? I don't think there are any questions, which is good. So yeah, I think that just about covers it. And any question you could ask me on the Telegram, and let's just go on USD CAD. 15 minutes. So see, we got that push up here. Small push up right around here. Bearish trend. So yeah, you can just see possible trades. You can back test it as well. Go back in time and see what I've taken the scalp or not, and see where you could have made profit. With scalping, again, in general, you're gonna have to be on the charts a little bit longer for more time during the day, depending on how many pips you want to go for each day or each week from scalping. So yeah, I think that's it. There weren't any more questions, so I'll let that go. So I think we're gonna head off, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. Again, it will be recorded and posted on the Telegram. And yeah, you guys have a good day.